Hello everyone, today we're going to be going over some arc skills in Last Cloudia, starting from rare arcs down to SR arcs and SSR arcs. We'll only go over a couple SSR arcs because, I don't think everybody's going to have access to those right off the bat, but I start a lot of fresh accounts all the time, so I figured I'd go over some of my favorite starting arcs to work on right away. Starting off the list, we're going to start with Dimensional Rift. Dimensional Rift is nice little arc. You don't necessarily need the skill effect on it, but I like to level it up pretty early on so I can get the Sky High effect. That will give damage to enemies that are mid-air plus 20% right off the bat. So as soon as they're a little tiny bit off the air, just a flat 20% damage increase. You can throw it on all your units that you're actually going to be using as physical damage dealers or anything like that. It's only 4 SC right off the bat, so I pretty much throw it on absolutely everybody. So it's a really good skill to have, and it's on a rare arc, so you'll be able to get that right off the bat. Alright. So for our next arc, we're going to be going on to Moonlit Murder. Moonlit Murder is a great arc to get up right away. It's got a couple things that you might want to look out for. So we'll go over here and we'll see it's got backstab, increased damage dealt to enemies from behind plus 30%. So anytime you're obviously behind an enemy, that's a flat 30% increase. It's going to be really helpful going forward and stuff like that. I end up throwing it on almost all of my units. It's also going to have critical up 2, which is great for Proud Force, which I'll be telling you about later on, which is pretty much one of the key healing factors for beginning accounts, I'd say. Like, as soon as you get it, it makes a world of a difference. Basically pushes you all the way up to like 314 to like 316. Really, really easy. And then even after there, you're still like, it's pretty easy all the way up until like almost the end of the 4th stage of the story, and to the part where you're starting the beginning part in the 5th stage with the desert. So really, really nice full skill. So you definitely want to get critical up too. Special boost is going to be really handy later on when you're fighting bigger bosses and stuff like that, and you start stacking killer or slayer effects on top of people. So that's going to help you out later on too. And you're definitely going to want that extra critical up too for some of your units that you're throwing Proud Force on, or if they don't come with it off the bat, because that healing is very essential when if you don't have any supports or anything like that built up early on and you just want to focus on 1 or 2 characters to get them strong. Our next arc we're going to talk about is White Laboratory. Now, you don't have to work on this arc right away, but you're eventually going to want to work on it because you're going to need it for the Tower of Trials and maybe a couple other bosses down the road. It has Illness Research, and that's going to be able to stop you from making other bosses like healing. There'll be people with like Heal Guard, like Lanceville. I think it's on floor 75 in the Tower of Trials. And a couple other places where you might come across units using Heal Guard and stuff, and if you inflict them with illness, they'll stop healing, so you put it on all your physical damage dealers, and that'll actually make it so you can kill the bosses. So you'll definitely have to work on this at one point of time. You don't need to do it right away, but Illness Research is definitely something you want to have for later on. You can see it just regular attacks have a chance to inflict illness there, 10 SC, so it's pretty costly, but you only need to throw it on for the couple bosses that might need it in the future. For our next arc, we're going to talk about Rad Moon Runs. It's a great little arc. You don't necessarily have to level it up right away, but it is one of the key ether rewards that you get early on. It'll give you the Rad Moon Stone. This will give you a flat 20% casting speed, plus 30 MP too, and it also has a couple attributes up, but also has attribute down 20 for Dart. So that you really don't have to focus on too much. The key thing is we want that 20% casting speed. That's going to get you closer to that insta-cast for some spells. If you are planning to use a mage, which you only really need for a couple things in the game, and you don't really actually need them. There's a lot of ways to get around pretty much using a mage at any point of the game if you have other things to substitute for them. But it is nice. I like to build like an insta-cast mage for Imperial Guard Commander 3 and a couple other places in the game where having a mage is a nice thing to have, but definitely something you don't need to work on extremely right away. But if you're wondering for an ether reward that you want to go for and you got something going on, it's definitely going to be one that you want to pick up down the road. Another arc that I wanted to go over quickly was the Shrine of Heresy. It has another ether reward that you might want to go for if you're going for casting speed. It gives attack magic casting speed plus 30%, and then also gives your dark damage for your magic attacks plus 15%. So if you're using dark magic with like Swimsuit Tinkly or something like that, or like with the Rogue's new magic attack, and you're building it up to just insta-clear with the Rogue's magic, this is a really good ether reward to just grab right off the bat. That attack magic casting speed plus 30% is huge, and with high level magic chant and then also Rad Moon Stone, you pretty much are making an insta-caster out of anybody who's rated to be a good mage or something like that, if you're using the right spells and such. So, you know, this is huge for if you're trying to clear Imperial Guard Commander really quickly or something like that, and you've built up a really nice mage. Definitely something that you might want to add to your pockets. The next arc we're going to be focusing on is the Giant Tree. Giant Tree is a really nice arc. If you get it up to level 8, you'll be able to get Resurrection from it. There's also Healing Wind on it, which is really nice when you're using Spirit Breath, which is another skill I'll go over quickly later on. Because Healing Wind actually heals all allies, and Spirit Breath makes it so whenever a direct heal is cast on an ally, they'll be able to get SCT back, or on themselves, they'll be able to get SCT back. So if you put Spirit Breath on all of your units, and then you cast Healing Wind, all of your units will be getting SCT back at the same time. So I use that sometimes when I'm playing with a support character and stuff. It's kind of nice to use. And Resurrection will be really nice. And then on top of that, as you level up this arc, you'll be able to level up your Yggdrasil Summoning Stone at the same time. You get the Yggdrasil Summoning Stone from the World Tree on the world map. You have to level up that arc first to get access to the quest that gives you the Summoning Stone. And then you also have to complete a side quest for the little granny. Yeah, so right over here, there'll be a sub-quest in Port Midgil, and that will be for, you have to get medicine for a granny or something like that, and that'll take you to the World Tree. And then when you go to the World Tree, there, after you level up the arc, there will be a sub-quest here that you can do that will give you the different tiers of the Summoning Stone, which is really useful for some accounts. I end up using it a lot in like endgame boss battles and stuff. It's probably one of my favorite Summoning Stones. Alright, so the next arc that we're going to go over quickly is Broken Sword at the Shore. Broken Sword at the Shore is a really nice arc. It has Proud Force on it. Unless you have Icy Guardian, you're going to be wanting to work on this arc right away. Icy Guardian is an SSR arc. It's got a little blue dragon on it, made out of ice. And yeah, that's going to have auto critical at the end. And it's also going to have Proud Force as you only have to level it up to level 2 to get access to Proud Force on this one. Whereas this one, you're going to have to level up to level 7 to get Proud Force. And this one uses red souls, where the other one uses blue souls. So if you get that other SSR, it's not needed, not key, but if you do get it, you know, you don't have to level this up. So just keep that in mind if you have that. Pay no mind to having to level this up right away. But if you don't have that, start investing your red souls into this right away, because Proud Force is going to help you so much. Because as soon as you get Proud Force on the unit and a couple of crit ups, like crit up 1, 2, and 3 or something like that, which you can get crit up 1 off this, or you can also get it off the Thunderstone Luster rare arc. And then crit up 2, I'm pretty sure you can get off Moonlit Murder or Flaming Hero, which is an SR arc, or more Moonlit Murders in a rare arc. So you should have 1 or 2 of those eventually. And then Beast Hunter, which I'm going to go over to, you know, that has critical up 3 on it. So if you have any of those, and then, or like the SSR Icy Guardian, you know, that'll have auto critical on it too. Or if any of your units already have auto critical effects or anything like that, you know, Proud Force is going to be a huge healing factor for you. It's probably one of the biggest things at the beginning of the game that'll, you know, change the way your characters are healing if you're dying or something like that a lot, and you don't know necessarily, and you don't want to build up like a support unit, or you don't think you can use enough healing effects or spells or something like that to keep you alive, you just don't have enough defense or something, like Proud Force makes a world of difference for it. So you're definitely going to want to go for that right away. Yeah, so along with that, like I mentioned, we also have the Icy Guardian here. So Icy Guardian is pretty nice. Oh yeah, it has a fish, not a giant dragon out of ice, but yeah, a little water fish. So yeah, so it has Adore. Adore you can only get from SSR arcs. It's not on any rare arcs or any SR arcs. I think it's on a different couple, like 1 or 2 or 3 SSR arcs. So that's only really useful if you have like a crit focus build or anything like that. That's going to be doing its main type of damage and crits and everything like that. It's not going to help you with Proud Force at all, because it's only going to be giving you that crit rate when you're at max HP. But when you're using Proud Force, you're pretty much going to be at max HP all the time. So it's going to be really useful in general if you're going for a crit build, especially early on in the game, where you might not have too many like really good weapons or anything like that to boost your strength up. So you'll be focusing mainly on crits to get your damage caps and stuff like that, and then after that, slowly working on getting your white damage caps up. So that's really useful. On top of also, yeah, having auto critical, which you might want to throw in a couple units and stuff if it doesn't innately come with that. But auto critical is pretty useful. Kind of a high SC cost, but pretty useful. I have it on a couple units, especially when you get them up to like 80 SC and you might not know what to throw on them. Auto critical's definitely something I put it on there. And then also to mention, it also has the Brisk Blade Zetsna. That's also a really good arc ether reward. It has 192 strength and then 30 mind and 30 defense, and that's a pretty good amount of like no laughing matter in that amount of strength. That's pretty good there. And then also when you're defeating enemies to get SCT back, like I still use it all the time. It hasn't really been replaced with anything by me. I use it on my Bayland. I use it on a couple other characters. Sometimes I throw it on Nero. I have some better weapons for him, but you know, this is my pay to win account. If I didn't have you know, so much pay to win stuff on this, I'd definitely be using the Brisk Blade on this a lot more. But I have some other accounts that are, you know, ranked 16 or 17 that Brisk Blade was like a game changer for when I got it, and it's a really awesome weapon that you might want to be working on if you pull it down the road. On top of getting Odor and Proud Force for only having getting it to level 2 to train those skills. So our first SR that we're going to be going over is Magic Mirror Pawn Ram. Pawn Ram is a really good arc to focus, not necessarily right off the bat, but a little bit down the road. You can get Decoy from it. First time your unit's HP reaches 0, you get a little bit of HP back. It's, as I said, not necessarily something that you might need right away, but it's really good for later on and stuff. When you're facing some of the harder bosses, they might have phases where they just nuke one of your units or something like that, and that's basically a cheap little auto revive that you'll be able to get pretty easy if you don't have maybe any SSR arcs with Awaken or something like that later on down the road. So I just wanted to single that out there. So Maiden's Prayer is a really nice arc on top of that too. So, you know, it has Healing Wind right off the bat. You'll be able to get Healing Boost with it too, which is really nice. Auto Regeneration maybe isn't necessarily that useful. And Stardust Heal, I end up using God Heal all the time instead of that, if you have access to God Heal from an SSR arc. If you don't, it's maybe useful, but you know, I'd be using Healing Wind with Spirit Breath more just to get more SCT back anyways. So not too special to me, but definitely something, you know, to think about if you're going to be leveling this up off the bat. And then on top of that, if you have a female unit that you're using for a healer like Tinkley or Spirit Maiden or like Lukiel's Shift Form, you know, you'll be able to get plus recovery effect plus 20% and plus 17 or plus 12% MP, and that's really nice for you. And then if a men's using it, you'll be able to get 17% HP, which is pretty nice. And then unit recovery plus 20%, which necessarily isn't the most useful thing. It's mainly going to be useful on your female units. And then on top of that, it also recovers HP automatically, which is a nice little effect to have on the back. So it's definitely one arc that I work on if I have Tinkley, or if I end up getting like a really nice female healer or something like that, like Shift Lukiel or something. So I wanted to put that in there. So the last SR arc that we're going to go over quickly is Beast Hunter. Beast Hunter is probably one of the most valuable SR arcs. You're definitely not going to be sad about getting a ton of these. You're going to need a whole bunch of them to level it up all the way up to level 10. And the reason why Beast Hunter is so good ties completely into farming characters. So when you're going into like in a match, especially like Grand Ability Gates or something like that to try and farm out crystal clusters, you have two different drop pools for a unit. So you'll have the original drop pool, which things like Great War of Ruin or something like that can affect the chances of and give you a higher percentage of something to drop from there. And then you also have a stealing pool, which units that steal can steal extra items from those enemies up to an extra complete set of what those enemies would originally drop. So when you have Beast Hunter and you finally get it up to level 10, you'll be able to use the level 10 arc skill on a specific wave of your choosing, which will be the boss wave most of the time when you're doing Grand Ability Gates or something like that. And that will make it so every single enemy on your screen would have a 100% chance if it was level 10, or mine at level 8 would give me an 80% chance of all of those units dropping an extra item. So I could get an extra cluster from them all or something like that. Just the extra roll in general will give you over 100% more items, because sometimes you have the chance where if you're regularly attacking an item or an enemy, they might not even just drop an item for you, you know? So with this, it increases the amount of clusters that you're going to get over 100%, especially once you get it to level 10 and stuff like that. So if you have a couple of friends, or if you see any friends that have like a level 10 Beast Hunter or something like that, that is really helpful for you when you're doing your ability gates or anything like that. On top of having things like, you know, the Beast Killer and Slayer and Pride are all pretty nice, and Surprise Attack is amazing for that extra damage for when you're behind people, and Critical Up 3 is awesome for when you're using things like Proud Force and such. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. It's a wonderful arc, and you'll probably see it on a ton of characters, especially Robin or other farming characters like that down the road. Definitely something you want to work on investing into. So the next two arcs that we're going to talk about are probably the two most important SSR arcs that you may want to consider re-rolling for, and I would say the only two necessary SSR arcs that you would need for an account. If you don't have them, they're going to be big features that you want to work on getting. Sandworm's going to be the first one we're going to go over. It has dual wield, and dual wield is probably the biggest skill that you can get in the game, especially for any damage dealing characters that you have, even for many mages and stuff like that. The only time where you might not need it is when you're playing in an arena and stuff like that, doing PvP content. There's a lot of single wield builds that excel very well for that, because you don't need to necessarily be focusing on damage cap. And yeah, so, but when it comes to player versus everything content, and you're going out there, dual wield is necessary for almost all units. There's a lot of units like DB Ray or Alice or Nero and stuff like that that'll come with dual wield off the bat because it's just such a good skill. It's got a pretty high cost, being at 14 SC, but it's completely worth it in every single way. You'll be doing twice as much damage, getting twice as many hits off, twice as many crits off. Like, it's just probably the best skill that you can have. On top of that, the other arc that we're going to be going over is Caldina the Great. Caldina the Great is an absolutely awesome arc. It's got God Heal on it, and God Heal I use all the time on some characters. It's not leveled up on this account yet because this account has Spirit Maiden, who's just bombing through everything and basically makes this account easy mode, so haven't had to use it at all. But the biggest thing that you'll need basically from this place is the arc Ether reward, which is Covert Gun Trishula. And Covert Gun Trishula makes it so if anything was originally going to have its damage reduced due to attribute resistance or anything like that, it will ignore those attribute resistances. So there's some places where you'll be fighting like thunder resistant enemies or dark resistant enemies, and characters like DB Ray or Swimsuit Tinklier or many other characters will really benefit from having your Trishula and actually be able to deal damage instead of getting it reduced to like 1 or something like that from resistances down the road. So you definitely want to pick up Covert Gun Trishula as probably your first arc Ether reward that you're going to focus on off the bat, because it is just so good. It's a game changer. There'll be places like in the desert later on where if you don't have a mage, there's enemies that will be resistant to almost every single type of physical attack and everything like that, and if you have Covert Gun Trishula, you'll be able to just completely stomp them without having to build a mage or anything like that. So it's definitely something you're going to want to work on for down the road. We're just going to quickly go over a couple more SSR arcs now that aren't necessarily key in any way, but they have nice little effects. Icy Guardian was the one that I mentioned earlier that we've already gone over, but there's also a couple more really nice ones, like Phoenix Blow. It has Awaken on it, and Awaken's pretty nice. You recover some HP, and it also increases your strength, mind, and defense when you and your movement speed when you're close to death. So that'll save you from death one time, and that is better than Decoy in my mind. I would use it over Decoy pretty much all of the time. So if you can get access to this SR arc or SSR arc, it's a really, really nice one to get for that. It also helps you break enemies, but there's a lot of arcs that do that, so it's not necessarily a key feature that you need to focus on for it. But Awaken's really nice to get for that, so I always end up leveling that up to level 10 on a lot of them if I don't already have access to auto revive on other units and stuff. The next one we're going to focus on Pirate Ships. So Pirate Ship is a really nice arc. You don't necessarily need to work it right off the bat, but it has Determination, which is survive once the first time lethal damage is taken. So it's another one of those quick little stop you from dying moves and stuff like Decoy and such. But the key one on Pirate Ships, which makes it really easy for when you're rerunning content or running anything with multiple stages, is Pirate Feast, and it recovers all of your SCT at the end of battle. So if you're having anything that's over one wave, say the 2-wave boss fight or something like that, when you start the next wave after your first wave, you'll always start with full SCT and all of your skills. And that just makes it so you can be clearing waves instantly basically, and it's really, really nice for auto farming, especially if there's a really easy wave off the bat. You can just stack a couple things that might give you some SCT for your first skill, and then if you get enough SCT in your first skill to just wipe the board really quickly, then as soon as your character goes into the next wave, it'll have a full SCT board, and you're be able to auto farm probably, in my opinion, pretty fast using Pirate's Feast. It's useful for a couple other things too, but I definitely like it for running through some of the content fast, especially some of the stuff that you're already done. Like, it just adds a lot of speed on, and you don't really need to have any other SCT skills sitting there, or like anything like Beastly Banquet or any SCT charges or anything like that. Like, it's pretty quick at that point. especially if you have like some of the other accessories and stuff like that that help you generate some SCT right off the bat, or phone boost, or some of the stuff from like the Devil May Cry collab. That's really nice for generating a lot of SCT right off the bat. Another SSR arc that I just wanted to go over quickly was the Silver Grey Swordsman. This is a really nice arc for whenever you're getting to the closer to the end game for more using on a character. It's got advanced aim vitals and a couple nice skills on it and stuff, but you don't really need to focus on the skills. The main reason I end up leveling up this arc is just it's got a really nice arc attribute with physical damage boost proportional to enemy size, plus 40% at max size, and damage from your first skill plus 50%. So if you're farming something really quick or something like that, and you're using like one attack and clearing the whole floor with your first attack or something, that's a really nice skill for the plus 50% damage from your first skill use. On top of that, whenever you're farming like really end game bosses and such like that, you know, it's pretty much always used for me on one of my units in my physical damage team for end game bosses, because most of them are just huge little monsters. So you know, you end up gaining that 40% flat damage right off the bat, which is really useful. So you know, I would say, you know, with the boost movement speed, and then each wave also getting that damage from your first skill plus 50% on top of getting the plus 40% damage whenever you're fighting a giant boss, which are pretty much the only ones that are going to give you trouble in the game, like the giant sandworms or some of the end game bosses and stuff, which will be really easy in the end. But you know, besides like Tower of Trials, where when you're fighting other characters from the storyline and stuff like that that are pretty strong, you know, pretty much all the strong things are this is going to be really helpful for taking them down, or all the big enemies that are really going to mess you up later on in the game for your first time going at them. So I definitely recommend, if you get this arc right off the bat, to be leveling it up. It's really useful for your physical DPS. Yeah, so, and that wraps up my little quick arc going over. I know that was a little bit messy there, because I ended up going back and forth there between my arcs. You know, there's definitely a couple more arcs that are really nice to get, but nothing really major that you need to focus on. When I end up going through a lot of my accounts, though, if you can manage to get a lot of those rare arcs that I mentioned, or SSR arcs and SR arcs going for you, you have a pretty good run at the game, and there's not many things that you need on top of that. Everything else is just kind of nice little things and bonuses that you get and you add to your character and such. You know, as long as you're focusing on something that's actually going to help your character in the end, and you, when you're building up a character, you try to stick to one or two main jobs for that character. Like physical damage, you want this character to be dealing high damage with crits, or physical damage, or if they have a high innate damage cap or something like that, and you're putting on your proper crits and your proper like attack ups and your proper moves. So like if you're for example, if you're hitting an attack and you're capping right away on your crits on all the things that you're attacking, you might want to end up putting a little bit more into your attack power or your strength or something like that, so your regular damage cap goes up. If you have trouble capping on your crits or something like that, or not dealing too much damage, you want to focus on maybe your crit power with things like advanced aim or something like that, and getting your crit rating up. You know, Proud Force is going to be really useful all through the bat on all those types of things, so I thought that was a really key thing to mention. On top of that, you know, if you get things like Pirate Ship, it's just going to make your life easier quickly. Awaken's really going to help for some of those endgame bosses. I think if you have Beast Hunter, it's going to make farming ability gates really, really easy for you. Kalindra, that's obviously obvious. It's giving you the Trishula, which is really, really useful, and the Sandworm with dual wield. So, you know, I hope this video can help one or two people out there. I know a lot of these arcs, when I get them at the beginning of the game, when I'm re-rolling or making a new account or something like that, it's a really big deal to me, and it helps me out hugely when I end up leveling them up. Proud Force probably being the actual biggest one. If I don't end up getting Icy Guardian, I end up working on Broken Sword of the Shore almost instantly, because Proud Force just ends up being so big for you at the beginning of the game. So yeah, I hope if anybody out there is starting out, that this can really help them out. Thanks for watching. If you like it, drop a like and subscribe. I'm down to make a ton more of these. I have a bunch more ideas written down, and I'm going to be going over the next couple days. You know, yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks to everybody on the Discord and everybody in general that I've learned a lot of this stuff from. You know, if it wasn't for the people on the Discord, I wouldn't be anywhere in this game pretty much right now. If it wasn't for people like Lake or other things like that, you know, it would just, you know, wouldn't be anywhere. So I'll put links in the description for all his information again, because he probably has the clearest, best information in this entire game, and we'd be going nowhere without him. I'll also have links to the Last Cloudia Discord in the description, where you can get help on pretty much anything. And if you have any questions, just drop them down below, and I'll try and help you out if I can. Yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.